As someone who's a fan of anime and Lord of the Rings, well, Lord of the Rings War for Rohirrim became one of my most anticipated projects when it was officially announced what feels like years ago. I honestly never thought we were actually going to see this project, but now it's coming out this week. I got a chance to check it out early, and it's okay. What's going on, buddy? Welcome back to a brand new movie review. Today we're discussing War for the Rohirrim. This is, of course, the brand new Lord of the Rings anime movie, and it's about a sudden attack by Wolf, a clever and ruthless defending lord seeking vengeance for the death of his father. Now forces Helm Hammerhand, the king of Rohan, and his people to make a daring last stand in the ancient stronghold of Hornburg. Now, Lord of the Rings fans, I'm sure you know exactly what that is, but basically what I really like about the idea of this film is that it's taking an aspect of something that us fans of know from the Lord of the Rings movies, and specifically the fans that knew the Lord of the Rings books, and takes that backstory of, well, what is this one location? What is the backstory to that? And like I said, off the top, I was excited for this project. I thought this was such a great mix of an idea, and for Warner Brothers to be pushing this into theaters, into a mainstream audience is pretty big, and well, it's okay. I think there is some great things to this film, but I think the script itself is the piece that holds it back the most. And as I was watching this, I couldn't help but think two things. One, maybe this would have worked if the film was a little bit longer. And two, I think this really would have worked as a mini-series. I just imagine like a Lord of the Rings anime series on HBO Max or whatever streaming service, where every season is kind of like a bit of lore, where they dive into these characters, and that's that thing. And maybe some of these characters show up in other seasons, maybe they don't, but that's how they focus in on it. I think that would have been such a great way for War of the Rohirrim to really delve into its depth a little bit more, because I think it was a little bit shallow in those cases. But what I like to talk about when we talk about movies, TV, games over here, I always like to start with my pros, and we're going to get it all into that. But I definitely want to hear your guys' thoughts down below in the comment section. So make sure to leave your thoughts down there, hit that like and subscribe button, and without further ado, let's dive into those pros. So number one thing I can say about this entire film is I think on a technical achievement, this is a gorgeous and outstanding movie. Sound design, to the way that like you just hear bones crunching, sources slicing, heads being bashed in. The sound design is impeccable in Lord of the Rings War for the Rohirrim, and that was one of the things that really took me by. Like, I'd hear the surround sound in the theater and I was like, oh my god, this is pretty damn brutal, and I'm digging it. And I really love those designs. I think that is really one of the things that really keeps this film above some of the other animated films, and just in general some other films that we get every year. On top of that, the score, phenomenal. I mean, it has those Lord of the Rings vibes, but it does hold to its own and having its own themes. And of course, it is an anime, so how's the animation? Well, this is a very unique mix of animation. It's 2D with, or how can I put it? It's 2D characters in a 3D landscape sometimes. The landscape itself sometimes will look 2D. So it is a very unique mix that kind of ties and feels like you're like reading like some big gasping lore and some old manuals. And I don't know, like for me, I overall dug the animation. I could see it maybe not working for everybody, but I do think it is gorgeous beyond belief, specifically in darker toned moments, and specifically the snow piece of the film, which I thought was just gorgeous. Last but not least, the action in here is just damn great. I actually wish they would have gone for the R rating, because sometimes it does get pretty damn brutal, and I wish they would have just shown a little bit more than like hearing, but I digress. Everything in terms of a technical achievement, I think this film nails. I have no issues on the technical part. I think those parts are absolutely amazing. My issue comes down to the story. The story here itself feels surface level. And when you talk Lord of the Rings, I've never felt Lord of the Rings to be surface level. The books, the movies, even like my issues with the Hobbit films, this like those films, which I have like massive issues with some of those movies, but those films look fantastic and feel fantastic compared to this. I found that all the characters in here were pretty one-dimensional. I think by the end, I finally got on board with the main character, but I just sat there and there's so much background context that they talk about that I wish, again, that the film was longer. I wish that maybe it would have been a mini series to expand on these characters, expand on these relationships. Way for me, I can understand where they are going for. For me, I just kind of had to piece together, okay, this is that, this is what that is. And obviously in certain dialogue moments, you understand where these characters come from. But for 2 hours and 13 minutes, it just never felt like that was enough time. And on top of that, somewhere in there, it feels a little bit rushed in terms of its storytelling, in terms of what it's trying to do, which does hurt the pacing. Pacing for a film, like a 3-hour film, can be amazing, and it can make the film feel way shorter. I mean, the Lord of the Rings movies like fly by sometimes when you watch them, depending on the mood that you're in. But for this one, I just felt like all the characters were underdeveloped and under-catered to. Return harms the story from being the exact thing that I wanted it to be. I think it is a cool piece of lore, but I never felt like, yes, this is the main thing I want. And it just sucks to say that, because I thought this could have been something that was just that nice, expansive piece, and it just ended up being okay. For me, I think that's why it's hard for me to recommend this film overall. Lord of the Rings War for Rohirrim is a technical and gorgeous marvel, from the spanning landscapes to the incredible sound design, but sadly that story is just not interesting enough to lock me in, and a lot of that comes from its lackluster and surface level characters. They're fun to watch, they're badass at times, but that only gets you so far. And like I said, I did start to finally really get engaged with the main character by the end, but even to the standard, it just never felt like what I actually need from a Lord of the Rings movie or a Lord of the Rings project. So with all that said, I'm going to give War for Rohirrim a C. Thank you so much again, guys, for watching this. Make sure to hit that like, subscribe button, comment down below your guys' thoughts, and of course, until next time, stay classy.